Have you ever wondered what the very first moment looked like when humankind raised its voice to the universe? It did not happen inside a majestic temple. It did not begin in a library full of books. It happened in a pitch-black night across the endless grasslands of ancient India. A fire blazed in the center. The wind howled across hide-covered tents. Above, countless cold stars watched silently. The tribe sat in a circle, eyes fixed on the flames. They had no writing, no books, no scrolls. They had only one thing, their voice. Then one man rose, a sage with long hair and half-closed eyes, as if gazing into another realm. In his hand gleamed a cup of Soma, the sacred drink. He raised it high, drew in a deep breath, and let out a sound. Not speech, but song. Long, resonant, rising from the depths of his chest, cutting through the firelight, soaring into the sky. It is impossible to say whether that song was beautiful, haunting, or strange. Yet its effect on the people around him was profound. Some swayed in their seats, others started to weep. Still others felt an inexplicable urge to dance. As the song reverberated around them, they felt a sense of unity, of belonging to something much vaster than themselves. 8. When the last note faded away, there was a long silence. 8. Then someone began to clap. Slowly, hesitantly at first, then with growing fervor. Soon the entire tribe was on its feet, dancing wildly around the sage, chanting in unison, their voices blending into a single, ecstatic sound. In that moment, something extraordinary had occurred. The boundaries between the individual and the collective had dissolved. The ego had been transcended. They were no longer a group of separate, isolated people. They were one. This experience, known in Sanskrit as samadhi, was not merely a religious or spiritual experience. It was a profound psychological event that marked a significant shift in human history. It was the birth of community, the emergence of a collective identity that transcended the limitations of individual existence. This story, though fictional, captures the essence of a transformative moment in human evolution. It tells us about the power of music to unite people, to create a sense of belonging and shared identity, and to transcend the limitations of the individual ego. Music has always been an integral part of human culture. It is a universal language that speaks to the deepest recesses of our soul. But have you ever wondered why? Why are we drawn to music? What is it about music that has the power to evoke such powerful emotions within us? The answer lies in the very nature of music itself. Music is a form of sonic art. It is the deliberate arrangement of sounds in time, a composition of tones and rhythms that create a tapestry of sound. Music is not merely a collection of notes. It is an experience. It can make us laugh, cry, dance, or reflect. It can transport us to another time and place, or it can bring us together in a shared experience of beauty and wonder. Music is more than just a cultural phenomenon. It is a fundamental aspect of human experience. From the rhythmic heartbeat of a lullaby to the soaring melodies of a victory chant, music is an integral part of our lives. It accompanies us through the joys and sorrows, the triumphs and challenges of human existence. But the true magic of music lies in its ability to transcend the boundaries of language, culture, and time. It is a universal language that resonates with the deepest recesses of our souls. Music has the power to evoke emotions that are beyond the reach of words, can stir memories, awaken feelings, and create a sense of connection that is both profound and inexplicable. But why do we feel so connected to music? The answer lies in the very core of our being. Music speaks to the rhythm of our hearts, to the melodies of our souls. It taps into the innate musicality that is part of our very nature. From the cradle to the grave, music has been an inseparable companion. The first lullabies sung to soothe a crying infant, the joyful tunes played at a child's first birthday, the celebratory anthems that mark moments of triumph. Music is an integral part of our journey through life. It shapes our emotional landscape and enriches our experiences, leaving an indelible imprint on our hearts and minds. The impact of music on our lives is profound and far-reaching. It influences our moods, evokes cherished memories, and even shapes our identity. Music has the remarkable ability to transport us back in time, to relive moments that have shaped our lives. A particular song can evoke a rush of emotions, bringing back vivid memories associated with a specific time, place, or person. Music becomes the soundtrack of our lives, accompanying us through the various chapters of our journey. But the influence of music goes beyond mere nostalgia. It is a powerful force that can inspire, motivate, and unite people from all walks of life. Upbeat melodies have the power to lift our spirits and infuse us with energy. They serve as the perfect backdrop for moments of celebration, uniting people in a shared experience of joy and enthusiasm. One of the most enchanting aspects of music is its ability to transport us to different cultures and places. Listening to a foreign song can be like taking a sonic journey to a distant land. We can experience the unique musical traditions and cultural nuances of different societies without leaving our own homes. Music truly has the power to break down barriers and foster a sense of global community. Yet perhaps the most profound impact of music lies in its ability to connect us on an emotional level. Music has the unique ability to express emotions that words sometimes fail to capture. A well-crafted melody can touch the deepest recesses of our souls, evoking feelings of love, loss, joy, or sorrow with a clarity that is both moving and thought-provoking. In conclusion, the impact of music on our lives is profound and multifaceted. It enhances our cognitive abilities, strengthens social bonds, stirs our emotions, and provides a creative outlet. Whether it is the harmonious sounds of nature, the rhythmic beats of a favorite song, or the soulful melodies of a cherished tune, music enriches our lives in countless ways. As we reflect on the power of music, let us celebrate its ability to elevate our spirits, connect us to others, and touch the very core of our beings. Music is more than just a collection of notes. It is a universal language that speaks to the deepest parts of our souls, reminding us of the beauty, power, and wonder that music brings into our lives. Now let's talk about the Rishi. Who were they? The Rishis were a group of highly revered sages and seers in ancient Indian traditions, particularly in Hinduism and Buddhism. They were not just ordinary people. They were individuals who had attained a deep level of spiritual wisdom and understanding through intense meditation, study, and contemplation of the mysteries of the universe. There are many stories and legends about the Rishis in ancient Hindu texts such as the Rigveda, Mahabharata, and the Ramayana. These accounts portray them as individuals who lived in deep connection with nature, often in forests or on mountaintops, far from the distractions of civilization. They were said to possess profound knowledge of spirituality, astrology, medicine, and various other esoteric arts. Some of the Rishis were also great composers of hymns and mantras, and their teachings formed a significant part of the Vedic and post-Vedic literature. For example, the sage Valmiki is credited with composing the epic Ramayana, while the sage Vyasa is said to have compiled the ancient Hindu scriptures known as the Vedas. It is believed that the Rishis gained their wisdom through deep meditation and yoga practices. They were said to have unlocked the hidden potential of the human mind and explored the depths of consciousness, enabling them to perceive the true nature of reality. Their insights and teachings served as guiding lights for generations of seekers, helping them navigate the complexities of life and the path to enlightenment. One of the most significant contributions of the Rishis to ancient Indian culture was their emphasis on living in harmony with nature. They recognized the interconnectedness of all living beings and taught the importance of respecting and preserving the natural world. This philosophy of living in harmony with nature continues to resonate today, reminding us of the need to protect and preserve the environment for future generations. In summary, the Rishis were not just legendary figures of ancient India. They embodied a way of life that emphasized spiritual wisdom, harmony with nature, and the pursuit of enlightenment. Their teachings and contributions continue to shape Indian culture and inspire seekers of truth and wisdom even today. If you found this interesting, don't forget to like this video. Humanity has been creating music for hundreds of thousands of years. We make music because we love it, because it makes us feel good, because it helps us get down on the dance floor. But listen to this song again. That song was not meant for human ears alone. It was meant for the gods. They were telling stories about their gods. So as they sang, they weren't just singing for themselves. They were singing for everyone listening, including the gods. You see, ancient India was full of rituals. In fact, some scholars believe there were more than 600 rituals in Hinduism. And each one had its own rules, its own chants, its own songs. But the biggest ritual in Hinduism, and maybe the biggest reason that ancient Indians made music. It's the Sama Veda. The Sama Veda is one of 4 ancient texts called the Vedas, and it's considered the oldest surviving book of music in the world. But here's the thing. The Sama Veda isn't just a book of music. It's also a book of praise. Each song in the Sama Veda is a hymn dedicated to a particular deity or a group of deities. Some are brief, and some are epic. Some are fast and furious, and others are slow and meditative. And together, they form a grand tapestry of sound and story, poetry and prayer. In Sanskrit, the language of the Vedas, the word Sama means to bring together or to collect. And indeed, the Sama Veda brings together many different elements. It collects hymns from other Vedic texts. It also collects melodies and tunes, and it even collects instruments. Now, you may be wondering, why does a religion need so much music? Well, for the ancient Hindus, music wasn't just something that sounded nice. It was a way of connecting with the divine. See, the ancient Hindus believed that the universe was full of spirits, some good and some bad, and these spirits loved music. Music was a way of communicating with them. It was a way of appeasing them, of praising them, of propitiating them. And it was especially important to appease the gods, because the gods were believed to be everywhere, and they were believed to be in everything. And if you could make music that pleased the gods, then you could harness their power and their presence. But let's take a closer look at the Samaveda. Where did it come from? How was it organized? And what can we learn from it today? To answer that question, we have to go back to the very beginning of the Vedas. The Vedas were not written down until relatively recently. They were composed and transmitted orally for thousands of years, and the Samaveda is no exception. According to tradition, the Samaveda was collected by a sage named Valmiki. Now little is known about Valmiki, but he is said to have lived around 1400 BCE, and according to the texts, Valmiki was a hunter who killed a heron that was making too much noise. When the heron died, Valmiki realized that he had killed a sage in disguise. He was so overcome with guilt that he decided to devote his life to studying the Vedas. Now, under the guidance of his guru or teacher, Valmiki learned the hymns and chants that would become the foundation of the Samaveda, and he is credited with organizing the entire text into its final form. So how exactly did he do that? Well, first he gathered the hymns. As I mentioned earlier, some of these hymns date back thousands of years before Valmiki's time, and they were originally composed for different rituals and ceremonies. But Valmiki selected the hymns that were best suited for music and song. He then grouped the hymns into different sections based on their meter and their melody. And finally, he added his own musical compositions to the mix. The result was a collection of over 1,800 verses set to 75 different melodies. And this collection became the foundation of the Samaveda. But how is this music actually performed? Well, the answer is in the name. Samaveda means the knowledge of chanting, so the music of the Samaveda was primarily vocal music. There were no instruments involved. And the goal of this music was not to entertain or to impress, but to elevate and to inspire. The singers were not performers, but priests. And their music was not just a concert, it was a ritual. But wait, don't go anywhere. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, okay, great, tell me about these ancient Vedic chants. But how do they relate to music today? Oh, my friend, you've come to the right place, because the influence of the Samaveda on Indian classical music is profound. Some scholars believe that all of Indian classical music can be traced back to the melodies of the Samaveda. In fact, the first 2 notes of the major scale used in Western music are derived from the Samaveda. Now I know what you're thinking. This is getting a bit too technical for me. But don't worry, let me break it down for you. So here's how it works. Ancient Indians didn't use the Western system of 12 notes. Instead, they had their own system, which had 7 primary notes. These notes were not only musical, they were also associated with certain planets. And the intervals between these notes were thought to correspond to the distances between these planets and the sun. So if you wanted to play a particular note, you had to know which planet it was associated with and how far away it was from the sun. This is where the Samaveda comes in. According to tradition, the 7th note of the major scale was discovered by none other than Yama, the god of death himself. And this note was so powerful that it was believed to be the sound of immortality. And when combined with the other notes, it created a cosmic harmony that could bring order to the universe. So now you're probably wondering, okay, great. I understand the science behind it, but what does it actually sound like? Well, let me introduce you to Ragamala. Ragamala is a traditional South Indian concert that showcases the 7 primary notes of Indian music. Let's take a listen. Isn't that beautiful? And now you're probably thinking, okay, I get it. This music is ancient, it's spiritual, and it's got some pretty cool science behind it. But what makes it so special? What is it about this music that has endured for thousands of years? Well, I would argue that it's the flexibility, the improvisational aspect of this music. Unlike Western classical music, which is highly notated and highly structured, Indian classical music is more fluid. The musicians are free to improvise and explore different variations. And this gives rise to a completely different level of artistry. For example, in Western classical music, a composer writes down a piece of music and then it's performed exactly as it's written. In Indian classical music, a composer may write down a basic structure or a melody, but the musician is free to improvise within that structure. This means that no 2 performances are exactly alike, and every musician brings his or her own unique style and personality to the music. And that's why Indian classical music is so fascinating. It's not just about the notes on a page or the equations on a screen. It's about the human element, the creativity, the improvisation, the artistry. So now I want to ask you a question. What do you think? What do you find most interesting about Indian classical music or the Samaveda? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you're enjoying this series, please don't forget to hit subscribe. And if you want to support my work directly, you can check out my page. Your support will help me continue to make these videos and share this amazing music with the world. And finally, if you want to learn more about Indian classical music, I highly recommend checking out some resources. I'll put links to all of these in the description below. So thank you for joining me on this journey through the Samaveda, the ancient book of music. The god of thunder and rain is rarely depicted in ancient art. He's always shown riding his elephant, using his thunderbolt to slay demons and bring rain to the world. But this story comes from the oldest sacred text in the world. So, before we get into the myths and legends about him, let's look at some of the things he represents. Some of the deepest desires in every human heart are the desire for food and water. Without them, our bodies will shut down. We become desperate. It doesn't matter if you have money or power. You cannot live without these 2 things. Now, imagine living in a time when there was no way to predict the weather. If it didn't rain for months, everyone would die of thirst. Farmers couldn't grow crops without water. People were constantly fighting over it. There was no way to survive without water. And the people back then didn't know where the water came from. So they imagined that it came from an enormous dragon that lived deep in the mountains. It coiled around the earth, blocking the flow of water. And so the people created a hero, a warrior, who was called Indra. His job was to defeat the dragon and free up the water for everyone else. This myth explains why we have seasons, why crops grow in the spring and summer, and why it rains in the monsoon season. It also explains why we have droughts, because sometimes the hero fails to control the rain and thunderstorms, and the dragon continues to hoard water until the next hero comes along. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This story is a metaphor. The drought is a metaphor for your personal problems. The rain is a metaphor for happiness. The dragon is a metaphor for everything that's keeping you unhappy. Well, maybe. But the ancient people weren't trying to explain abstract concepts. They wanted to solve real problems. They needed to understand how nature worked. They needed to feel connected to the forces of the universe. And they felt like those forces had personalities, emotions, likes, and dislikes. And the ancient people weren't stupid, as they knew that water didn't come from a dragon. But they also knew that the world was bigger than they could possibly comprehend. So they created stories to try to make sense of it. And these stories helped them cope with their fears. But let's go back to the myth. We meet the dragon serpent for the first time in the Rigveda. It says that once upon a time, the entire world was covered in darkness. There was no rain. The rivers had dried up. The clouds had no moisture. The wind had no music. Everything was dead. And out of this darkness, something new began to stir. A dragon named Vritra. He sucked up all the water into his belly. He grew bigger and bigger. He became so powerful that he blocked the sun from shining and the moon from glowing. Even the stars couldn't pierce the darkness. So the Devas decided they needed a hero, a warrior who could kill the dragon and save the world. And that's when they brought Indra into existence. He wasn't born in the normal way. The Devas created him by squeezing all their powers together. It's kind of like when your finger starts to glow after you squeeze it really hard. Only this time, it was much more intense. All the Devas held their hands over his head and whispered the words of power. And when they finished, he opened his eyes and looked around. He was made for one purpose, to fight the dragon serpent and bring light and water back into the world. But he was also given a special weapon, a hammer called the Vajra. It looked like a big metal rod, but it was much more than that. It represented the power of all the Devas, and whenever Indra swung it, lightning flashed across the sky. So now we have the hero and the villain, the hero's weapon.
Ow!
All we need is a love interest, and she appears in an unexpected place, the battlefield. Her name is Shachi, and she was the wife of the king of the Nagas. The Nagas were half human, half snake, and they were considered evil because they were so cunning and cruel. They also hoarded all the secret knowledge in the world, and that's why Shachi was different from other women. She was beautiful, yes, but she was also intelligent and brave. She didn't want to live in her husband's shadow, wanted to do great things. And that's why she met secretly with the Devas. She agreed to help them fight the dragon serpent, and that's why when Indra arrived, she rode out to meet him. And now we have everything we need, a clear path, a strong hero, a weak villain. It should be an easy story, right? Well, not quite. When the battle started, Indra charged forward, swinging his Vajra, but Vritra was too fast. He dodged every blow. He hissed and snarled, and he shot poisonous darts at Indra. The hero kept dodging, but he was losing ground. He was tired from running, and the longer the fight went on, the more the serpent grew. Suddenly, Indra remembered what Shachi had told him. He couldn't beat the serpent with brute force. He had to use his mind, so he pretended to be exhausted. He sat down on the ground and threw his hammer away. The serpent struck. His darts hit the Vajra, and that's when the hero lunged forward. He grabbed the serpent by the hood and squeezed tight. The serpent writhed and twisted, but the hero held on.
Ah!
Then he swung his hammer and smashed it into the serpent's brain. The dragon collapsed. His body cracked open and water poured out of the wound. Rivers formed, lakes filled up, the clouds got pregnant with rain, and the wind carried the song of joy across the world. Now we could stop the story here, and it would still be exciting and satisfying. But that's not how the ancients told it. They added a little twist at the end. You see, when Vritra died, something strange happened. His wife, the Apsara named Apala, took pity on the dying beast. She flew down from heaven, put her hand on his chest, and whispered a prayer. And as she did that, a new life began to stir inside of him. It was a son, a baby dragon, who would inherit his father's power and continue the fight against the Devas. And that's why some of the hymns say that Indra killed Vritra the first time, but other hymns say that Vritra was immortal and that he would keep coming back. And you might be thinking that that makes no sense. How can someone be immortal and die at the same time? Well, remember that the ancient people weren't trying to explain abstract concepts. They were trying to solve real problems. One of the biggest problems in their world was the problem of death. They saw the birds and animals die. They watched their loved ones grow old and pass away. And they wondered if there was a way to cheat death, if there was a way to live forever. The answer they came up with was reincarnation. They believed that when a person died, their soul went on a journey, traveled to a new body, and continued to live. And that's why when Vritra died, his son was already on his way. He was born into a new body and ready to start a new life. This belief gave the ancient people comfort. It helped them deal with their grief. It gave them hope for the future. And it's one of the reasons why they kept telling the story of Indra and Vritra over and over again. Every time they told the story, they hoped that the hero would win, that the rain would fall, that the crops would grow. But they also knew that the story wasn't just about the future. It was also about the past. They believed that the dragon serpent had been defeated many times before, and that's why the world was full of rain and rivers. But they also knew that the battle wasn't over. It would keep happening over and over again, just like the cycle of life and death. That's why the ancient people kept singing the Rigveda. They sang to the stars, and they believed that the stars were listening. They sang to the gods, and they believed that the gods were dancing to their tune. And that's how they tamed the wilderness. They didn't have guns or bombs or pesticides. They had songs. And that's how they won the war against chaos. They sang to order into existence. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, you'll love the series. It's a fun and engaging way to learn about the ancient world. This is a great moment in human history. Mankind has just tamed fire. We're going to celebrate this by singing songs of praise to all the gods. As the fire roared and the songs rose higher, the names of the gods echoed one by one. And with every name, it was as if an entire mythic world stepped out of the flames. First came Indra, the greatest god of the Rigveda. The Aryans sang of him as a mighty warrior, a giant astride a golden chariot drawn by horses of flame. In his hand, the thunderbolt Vajra. Oh, strike the wicked with your Vajra, O Indra. The hymns are filled with such battle cries, but Indra was not merely a stormbringer. He was the savior of humankind. The hymns recall his most glorious battle, the slaying of Vritra, the serpent dragon who swallowed the rivers and locked the waters within his coils. His breath scorched the earth, his eyes burned like hot coals, yet with one devastating strike, Indra shattered Vritra. The waters burst free, rushing down the mountains, flooding the plains, reviving the earth. All this we know from the Rigveda, but how did these ancient people tame fire? Was it simply a case of rubbing two sticks together? It turns out that there are several ways to tame fire, actually. Some of them require only primitive tools, while others take advantage of modern technology. For example, you can start a fire by using a bow drill set. This is considered one of the earliest methods used by humans to generate controlled fires. It requires a wooden socket secured between two other pieces of wood. Then a small stick called a spindle is set into motion using a bow. This creates friction, which generates embers that eventually ignite dry materials placed near the drill. This is similar to another method where a bamboo and steel fire saw is used. This technique involves inserting a piece of bamboo into a shallow groove carved into a hard stone. The bamboo is then struck rapidly with a steel tool, causing it to spin. Again, friction causes the bamboo to produce embers which catch fire when they come into contact with tinder. And what about when our ancestors learned to harness lightning? They didn't capture it with nets or jars, nor did they dig it up from the ground. It wasn't until they learned to split wood that they found its secret. Lightning is trapped inside trees, locked away by the strong bonds that hold the molecules together. But when wood is split, the bonds break, and lightning is released. That's why whenever someone splits wood, it is considered sacred. It is the closest thing to creating fire without any external source. We come across many such fascinating insights in Devdutt Patnaik's book, The Fire of Wisdom. You might be thinking that all these methods seem quite chaotic and unpredictable. However, the ancient sages weren't oblivious to the patterns in nature. Once they understood these patterns, they began to predict natural events like eclipses or changes in seasons. This understanding enabled them to establish settlements in new lands, domesticate animals, and grow crops. Without it, none of this would have been possible. In fact, when the author visited various ashrams, he noticed something very interesting. Many sadhis have keen observational skills. They can tell you the exact time for sunrise and sunset based on the position of clouds and mountains. No wonder ancient sages are referred to as rishis. Rishi means to observe. Rishi means to observe. They were keen observers of nature. It was also through fire that ancient humans realized the importance of numbers. Before this discovery, they lived in a world without numbers, without clocks or calendars. Time was meaningless to them. There was no past, no future, only an endless now. According to Patanjali, the first step towards taming fire is to realize its importance. Until then, fire remains a mystery. So let us begin at the very beginning. Let us learn about the first numbers. In the Upanishads, the concept of zero is explained. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, it is said that just as a person realizes the truth by renouncing all desires similarly, one must renounce all numbers to reach the state of zero, the state of infinite potential, the state of unity with the divine. From the atomic level to the vast expanse of space, everything consists of zero. Zero is the seed of all creation. It is also the final goal. If a person understands zero, they understand everything. The path ahead becomes clear. 1. The first number after zero represents independence, selfhood, and ego. Everything in the universe manifests from one, yet everything merges back into one. One is the foundation of duality. Duality brings diversity and differences. One leads to conflict, competition, and struggle. the seeker must move beyond one. But before that, one must learn to observe themselves, their own thoughts and emotions. Only then can they progress to number 2. The second number 2 represents duality, such as hot and cold, light and dark, male and female, or subject and object. Until a person transcends duality, they cannot understand unity. 2 is the level where conflicts arise. For example, 2 individuals compete for limited resources. Cooperation begins at 3. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad states, 3 are the instruments for attaining perfection: the eye, the ear, and the spoken word. 3 is also the ideal number for living beings. The author elaborates on this idea. Just as the physical body needs 3 dimensions to exist, similarly, human beings need at least 3 qualities to thrive. For instance, consider the qualities of Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. These 3 gunas form the basis of human existence, and a balance among them is crucial for well-being. Or think of the 3 states of waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. Humans constantly cycle through these states. Even the human brain operates with 3 types of energies. The interplay between these energies enables complex functions like memory, attention, and consciousness. Number 4 signifies stability and structure. 4 is the smallest number that can create a square. Hence, 4 is associated with order and balance. In Hinduism, 4 are the ashrams of life, brahmacharya ashram, the stage of life when one is dedicated to learning and spiritual pursuits. The second stage is the name's grahastha ashram, where one enters into household life and responsibilities. Then comes the vanaprastha ashram, where one retires from worldly duties and lives in solitude. Finally, there is the sannyasa ashram, where one renounces all attachments and wanders freely, seeking enlightenment. Also, 4 are the goals of human life: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. 4 are the yugas: satya, treta, dvapara, and kali. 4 are the directions: north, south, east, and west. 4 are the elements: earth, water, fire, and air. 4 are the seasons: summer, monsoon, autumn, and winter. 4 are the stages of life: birth, growth, maturity, and death. 4 are the Vedas: Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharvaveda. 4 are the goals of yoga: right understanding, right intention, right effort, and right meditation. Everywhere in Hindu tradition, the number 4 symbolizes completeness and perfection. Once a student asked Swami Sivanand, "What is the significance of the number 5? The Swami replied, "You may say that 5 represents everything because it includes all the previous numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4. It encompasses everything." When you sit to meditate, imagine that you are sitting on a lotus with 5 petals, symbolizing the 5 elements. Through meditation, you merge with the divine, realizing that everything arises from the divine and merges back into the divine. In the end, we come full circle back to 0. Hence, 5 is considered the highest number in Hinduism. To fully appreciate these teachings, it's essential to recognize the profound impact of fire not only on our material world, but also on our spiritual evolution. Fire holds immense significance, driving our scientific advancements, shaping our societal norms and rituals, and guiding us on our paths to enlightenment. By exploring these concepts, we gain a deeper understanding of the intricate relationship between humanity and fire and its enduring influence on our existence. When the voices turned to Agni, the sacred fire, they were talking about the most important deity in the entire pantheon, the one who sat at the very center of the universe, the one whose presence filled both heaven and earth, the one without whom nothing could exist. For if Indra ruled the sky, Agni ruled the hearth. He was not only flame, he was messenger, carrying offerings from human hands to divine tables. And it is this role as conveyor between gods and men that makes the study of his hymns so crucial to understanding the Vedic religion. In today's episode, we will look at 10 of the most important hymns dedicated to Agni. Drawn from the Rigveda, the oldest layer of Vedic scripture. Let's begin with, perhaps the most famous hymn, addressed to Agni. It is contained in the first mandala. Hymn number 6, verses 1 through 4. These are some of the first words addressed to the sacred fire in the entire corpus of Vedic literature. Listen closely. "We have collected kindling for the sacred fire, bringing it hither for thee, O Agni. may these sticks that give forth sparks and bright flames be kindling for thee. As the sun kindles day, so kindle thou our sacrifice. Agni, the shining eye in the darkness, the knower of all words, the flame that never dies. By thy light, O Agni, may we walk secure. In the dark, dark night, in the dark, dark night, Agni, by thy light, may we walk secure. We have collected kindling for the sacred fire, bringing it hither for thee, O Agni. Make it blaze forth, O Agni. Do thou also go up in flames. This is my offering to thee. Agni, the shining eye in the darkness, the knower of all words, the flame that never dies. By thy light, Agni, may we walk secure in the dark, dark night. There are many things worth unpacking here, but for now, let's focus on the metaphor of light that runs through the hymn. Light and darkness are everywhere in the Rigveda, but they don't just refer to day and night. Rather, they symbolize a much more fundamental reality. The absence of light represents chaos and ignorance, while the presence of light signifies order and knowledge. What is true of the natural world is also true of the spiritual. Darkness conceals what is hidden and unknown, while light brings clarity and understanding. And so when the singer approaches the altar with his oblation, he does so in darkness. But the moment the fire catches hold of the ghee, there is a flash of light, a spark that bursts forth. The singer sees that light and takes it as an auspicious sign, because it represents the removal of darkness, both literally and figuratively. With the fire burning brightly, he knows that he is on the right path, that his offering has been accepted, and that the divine presence is near. But why is this so important? Because Agni is not only a god, he is a channel, a conveyor between the ordinary world and the divine, is the one who carries the oblations of the sacrificer up to the gods. And the brightness of the flame is a sign that he is doing his work properly. Just as the light dispels darkness, so too does Agni dispel ignorance, for it is through him that the sacrificer obtains knowledge of the divine. It is no coincidence that Agni is called the knower of all words. His flames carry the hymns and prayers of the singer to the gods, and in return, they bring down the divine response. But Agni is more than just a passive conveyor. He is an active agent, a powerful force that can transform and elevate the ordinary into the extraordinary. This is seen in his ability to take the humble ghee and grain, the Soma plant, and elevate them into a vehicle for the divine. In other words, Agni doesn't just carry the offering, he purifies it. He makes it worthy to ascend to the gods. This is why the hymns often speak of Agni as the purifier, the one who cleanses the sacrificer and his offering, and establishes a proper connection with the divine. And yet, despite his greatness, Agni is also humble and obedient. He does not act according to his own will, but according to the will of the sacrificer. This is seen in the way the hymns speak of Agni as the servant of the gods and the priest, as the one who obeys the commands of the sacrificer. Even the gods themselves are dependent on Agni. They cannot do anything without him. This is why the hymns speak of Agni as the one who brings the gods down to earth. Let us now turn to another hymn, in praise of Agni. This one is found in the Rigveda 3rd Mandala, hymn number 28, verses 1 through 6. It contains a beautiful metaphor that captures the essence of Agni. Us role as a conveyor between gods and men. Listen to these words. You are the messenger of the gods, Agni, their envoy, their mouth, and their speech, O Agni. You convey our words to the gods, and theirs to us. Like a king receives the message of his servant, like a father the message of his son, like a friend the message of a friend, like a husband the message of his wife. So the gods receive your message and send it back to us through you. This hymn emphasizes the idea of Agni as a channel, as the one who conveys the words of the gods to the people, and vice versa. He is the link between two worlds, between the divine and the human. Agni is not just a passive conveyor, however. He is an active agent who interprets the will of the gods and brings it to pass. He is the one who establishes the proper relationship between the divine and the human. The one who ensures that the offering of the sacrificer reaches the gods and the divine response reaches the people. Now, this role of Agni is not just religious in nature. It also has profound social and cultural implications. The hymns often speak of Agni as the conveyor of wisdom, as the one who brings the divine light of knowledge to the people. In this way, Agni is associated with the most important Vedic institutions, such as the ashram and the sacrifice. He is the one who sanctifies these institutions, who makes them channels of the divine. He is the one who ensures that the knowledge and practices of the Vedic tradition are transmitted from one generation to the next. Let us now turn to another hymn, this time from the fourth mandala, hymn number 9, verses 1 through 7. Here we see a direct connection between Agni and the pursuit of wealth. Listen carefully. Wealth is born of desire, and desire is born of Agni. Agni is the father of wealth. The two are born together. When Agni is invoked at the beginning of a sacrifice, the hymn says, "Wealth follows like a daughter." Wealth here doesn't just refer to material prosperity, it also includes the wealth of knowledge and power. Agni is the one who brings all kinds of wealth to those who worship him. For example, the pursuit of knowledge, which is one of the most important goals in Vedic society, is also attributed to Agni. In this hymn, Agni is called the father of food, and food is not just physical nourishment, but also spiritual nourishment. Those who feed Agni with ghee and grain are said to obtain food for their souls. This is because Agni purifies and elevates everything he touches. He transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. He makes it worthy to nourish the soul. But Agni is not just a giver of wealth. He is also a protector of those who worship him. In this final hymn from the fifth mandala, hymn number 1, verses 1 through 5, we see Agni as the defender of the righteous. Listen to these words. Lead us not into hunger, nor into thirst, nor into nakedness, O Agni. Protect us from sin and from sorrow, from old age and death. Preserve us, O Agni, by thy might. Preserve us, O Agni, by thy splendor. The singer here is asking for protection from all kinds of dangers, from physical to spiritual, from material to psychological. He acknowledges his own weakness and dependence on Agni, and calls on him to be his protector. Agni is the one who stands between the singer and all kinds of harm, the one who defends him and guides him on the right path. So we see that Agni is not just a god, he is a channel, a conveyor between the divine and the human, between the known and the unknown, between the ordinary and the extraordinary. He is the one who brings the divine presence into our lives and makes it real for us. Without Agni, there would be no connection between the gods and the people. There would be no way to access the divine. But fortunately, we have Agni, the sacred fire, who is always ready to convey our offerings to the gods and bring their blessings back to us. If you found this video insightful, I invite you to watch another episode where we explore the Gayatri Mantra, one of the most sacred chants in all of Hinduism. Until then, remember to follow for more videos and leave a comment below with your thoughts on the importance of Agni in the Vedic religion. So far we have met 2 of the 12 Ashvins, the divine twins, and Indra, the thunderous warrior. Now it's time to meet the 3rd member of this celestial club. But who is he? Let's find out. Then came the solemn name Varuna, the lord of cosmic order. Unlike Indra, the thunderous warrior Varuna was the keeper of Ritu, the sacred law that governed both stars in the sky and morals of men. When his name was sung, silence fell, for everyone knew. Varuna was the all-seeing one. He watched, he listened, he judged, and he punished those who broke the eternal order. We can understand why such a powerful deity was included in the group. Just think about it. If you were planning an important journey and needed safe passage, who would you call upon? The twins, Ashvins, for their healing powers and swift horses? If you needed protection from your enemies, of course, you would invoke Indra, the mighty warrior. And if you had to ensure that the very fabric of reality didn't unravel, well, you would pray to Varuna, the lord of cosmic order. Now, there's a question that might be puzzling you. What exactly is this ritual? Why do gods need to bathe in the elixir of immortality? Well, you see, even gods grow old. In fact, when they're born, they already have a lifespan. For example, the lifespan of Brahma, the creator god, is 100 years. And when he reaches the end of his life, he dies and is reborn again and again and again. That's just how it goes. But here's the twist. Gods can also choose to die. Sometimes it's easier to give up your godly life than deal with the problems of the universe. So when a god gives up his life, he doesn't go to heaven or hell. Instead, he hangs out in this place called Patala Loka, which basically means the land of the ancestors. It's kind of like a waiting room before you move on to your next life. So now you know what's at stake. The question is, how does bathing in the elixir of immortality help? Well, it's simple. That elixir is like a cheat code for gods. It lets them skip the whole dying and being reborn thing. After drinking the elixir, the god becomes immortal. But here's the catch. It can only obtain it during the churning of the ocean. And guess who guards this magical drink? None other than Varuna himself. Imagine trying to sneak into a guarded vault full of magical potions, while battling demons and monsters. Even gods need some serious skills to pull that off. And let's not forget the timing has to be just right. You see, the ocean is churned only once every millennium. So if you miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, you gotta wait another 1,000 years. No wonder gods take this quest so seriously. And speaking of quests, have you ever heard of King Bali? He wasn't just any king. Oh no, Bali was the son of the legendary Vina. His story is so epic it deserves its own episode, so make sure to stay tuned and don't miss out. But for now, let's get back to our brave heroes. How did they manage to find the elusive Varuna? Well, they had a secret weapon, a magical lasso that could capture the most cunning demons. And guess who was the first to lay their hands on it? None other than Vimana, the dwarf. Yep, remember him? The guy who tricked the arrogant Bali to his doom? Anyway, Vimana used the lasso to trap Varuna, but he didn't do it alone. No, sir, he had backup. The twin gods Ashvins, they helped him tie up the cosmic order keeper and bring him down to Earth. Quite the adventure, huh? But here's something that might surprise you. Despite being the Lord of Cosmic Order, Varuna wasn't exactly thrilled about joining the party. In fact, he put up quite the fight. It took all the strength of Vimana and the Ashvins to finally convince him to take the plunge. And when Varuna entered the fray, things got really interesting. The fight between the gods and the demons reached a whole new level. It was epic, it was intense, and it was totally worth watching. But the real question is, why did Varuna eventually agree to join the team? Well, here's the thing. As the Lord of Cosmic Order, he couldn't just stand by and watch the demons wreak havoc. It was his duty to restore balance to the universe, and that meant joining forces with the gods. Plus, let's face it, who wouldn't want to hang out with a bunch of immortal, all-powerful beings? So there you have it. The three deities, each with their unique powers and perspectives, joined together to take on the demons and restore order to the universe. And their adventures, well, they're just getting started. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more exciting stories. Your support means everything to us, and we can't wait to bring you more epic tales from the world of Hindu mythology. Until then, stay curious, stay engaged, and we'll see you in the next one. Finally, the most mysterious name rose into the night. Soma, who or what was it? A plant? A drink? A god? Or all three at once? What are the Aryans? Who were wandering from place to place with their flocks? Life was precarious. But there was one thing that gave them solace. Soma. It is impossible to say exactly what Soma was. Scholars have put forward many theories, but none can say for certain. Some think it was a hallucinogenic fungus that grew on the grains they ate. Others say it was a special type of mushroom. Still others believe it may have been a particular kind of hemp plant. These are only guesses, though. What we do know comes from the hymns. Their Soma is not merely a plant, it's also an ecstatic drink and a god. The Aryans would take the plant, crush it, squeeze out its juice, then boil it with other plants. And when it was ready, they would pour this sacred wine over the fire, letting the smoke carry its fragrance up towards the sky. And while the wine boiled, the poet would chant a hymn like this one. From the immortal, they make the mortal. They press out the juice of immortality, the bright flowing essence, the pure draught which the gods delight to drink. This wasn't just a way of making a drink. It was a ritual, a way of connecting with the divine. To the Aryans, Soma was a gift from the gods, a way to experience something transcendent. They didn't just drink it. They became it. They drank Soma during rituals, but they also drank it during everyday life. It brought people together, young and old, male and female. Men would walk through the village carrying jars of Soma on their shoulders, singing songs as they went. The women would follow, dancing and clapping to the beat. And once they reached the houses, everyone would gather together to drink the sacred brew. That night, under the influence of Soma, the boundaries between the physical and spiritual worlds seemed to blur. The Vedic texts are filled with stories of people who, after drinking Soma, had visions of other realms of divine beings and of journeys beyond the stars. One time, the sage Bharata drank some Soma, and suddenly, he saw the path to heaven. It was a vision so profound that it changed him forever. He saw the gods passing back and forth on their heavenly journeys. He saw the celestial river, where the sun took its bath each morning. He even saw the cosmic tree, the one that connected the earth to the sky. Then, as quickly as it had come, the vision vanished. But Bharata was never the same again. He had seen too much, and now he spent his days teaching others about the wonders of Soma. He told them how it could open your eyes and show you the truth of the universe, if you only knew how to find it. So people came from far and wide to hear his teachings and learn the secrets of the sacred plant. And when they did, they would often set out on their own journeys to find the mythical Soma. They traveled across mountains and rivers, through forests and deserts, all in search of the one thing that could open their eyes and show them the path to enlightenment. Let's take a step back here. Why did the Aryans need these mystical experiences? Why did they turn to Soma for visions of other realms? Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever felt lost? Like you don't know who you are or why you're here? Maybe you've looked up at the stars and wondered if there is more to life than what you see around you. The Aryans felt that way too. They too wanted to know if there was more to existence than the struggles of everyday life. They wanted to know if there was a greater plan, a deeper meaning to everything. They believed that Soma could help them find those answers. See, to the Aryan, life was more than just the physical world they saw around them. They believed that there were other realms, other planes of existence that were just beyond their perception. They believed that these realms were inhabited by divine beings, by gods and goddesses who held the secrets of the universe. And they believed that if they could only reach those beings, if they could only tap into those realms, they would find the answers they were seeking. They would find the meaning of life, the purpose of their existence. But how could they reach these divine beings? How could they tap into these higher realms? They believed that Soma could help them do it. In fact, they believed that Soma was a bridge between the physical world and the spiritual one, a way to access the divine. When they drank Soma, they believed that they were entering into a state of heightened consciousness, a state in which they could perceive the unseen, the things that lay beyond the physical world. And what did they see when they entered that state? They saw wonders beyond their wildest imaginations. They saw celestial rivers and golden palaces. They saw gods and goddesses moving through the heavens. They saw the very fabric of the universe being woven together. And in these visions, they saw the answers they were seeking. They saw the meaning of life. Let's dive deeper into this idea of a heightened state of consciousness. What do we mean when we say that the Aryans entered into a different state of awareness when they drank Soma? Well, imagine that our normal state of consciousness is like being awake. We can see, hear, touch, smell, and taste. We can think and reason and make decisions. But there are also other states of consciousness, like when we dream. When we dream, we enter into a different world, a world that's not bound by the laws of physics or logic. In this world, anything is possible. We might fly or become invisible or have multiple personalities. And when we wake up, we remember fragments of this other world, but it feels distant and unreal. Now, the Aryans believed that Soma could help them enter into a similar state of heightened awareness, a state in which they could perceive things beyond the normal range of human perception. They believed that in this state, they would be able to see the divine, to connect with the gods, and to gain knowledge that was hidden from ordinary people. They called this state of consciousness Soma Sapam, which literally means the state of Soma. In this state, they believed that they could transcend the limitations of the physical body and the rational mind and tap into a deeper, more fundamental level of reality. And it was in this state that they experienced the visions that inspired the Vedic hymns. One of the key features of this state of consciousness was a sense of unity and interconnectedness. They believed that all things were connected and that they were part of a larger whole. This is reflected in the hymns, which often speak of Soma as a way of bringing people together, of uniting them in a common experience. Another important aspect of this state was a feeling of intense joy and euphoria. They believed that Soma could bring a deep sense of happiness and well-being, a state of being that was free from suffering and anxiety. This is evident in the hymns, which often praise Soma as a source of great delight and pleasure. Finally, they believed that Soma could bring a profound sense of peace and tranquility, a state of being that was free from the turmoil of everyday life. But what did this state of consciousness actually look like? How did it affect the Aryans, and what did they experience when they entered it? Well, unfortunately, there is no single answer to these questions, because the Vedic texts offer a variety of descriptions of the effects of Soma. Some passages describe a state of intense euphoria and joy, while others talk about a feeling of deep tranquility and peace. Some passages mention visions of other realms or of divine beings, while others focus on the sense of unity and interconnectedness that Soma can bring. However, there are some common themes that run through all of these descriptions. First, there's a sense of transcendence, a feeling of being beyond the limitations of the physical body and the rational mind. This is what enabled the Aryans to perceive things that were normally invisible to the human eye, and to experience feelings that were normally beyond the range of human emotion. Second, there's a sense of unity, a feeling of being connected to all things. This allowed the Aryans to see the world in a new way, a way that was free from the usual divisions and distinctions that we make. Finally, there's a sense of peace, a feeling of being at one with the universe and at ease with oneself. This allowed the Aryans to find a deep sense of contentment and satisfaction, a state of being that was free from the usual worries and concerns of everyday life. To sum up, the state of consciousness that the Aryans entered into when they drank Soma was a profound and transformative experience. It allowed them to perceive things beyond the range of ordinary human perception, to feel emotions that were normally beyond the reach of the human heart, and to find a deep sense of peace and unity with the universe. If you want to learn more about ancient India, stay tuned for more updates. These nomads were called the Aryan tribes, and they lived between the Indus River and Central Asia. They moved from place to place, always chasing the green fields. And their lives were hard. So when these tribes looked up into the sky, they saw gods. In those wandering years, they created hymns. They praised gods who could help them. Gods like Indra and Agni. You must have heard of them in my older videos. But today I will talk about a third god whose name isn't remembered. This god had no hands to help the Aryans. No one even remembers his name. His only power was to make the other gods speak. So let us look into the story behind the nameless god and find out why even gods sometimes go silent. The Rigveda has 1028 hymns. More than 90% of them praise some god or the other. One god gets 200 hymns by himself, another gets 195. But one god, a god without a name, has 5 hymns dedicated to him. And I will tell you the story of the 5th hymn now. It is said that once the Aryan tribe stopped to rest beside a lake. That day, they didn't travel. They stayed beside the lake and meditated. That's what the first line says. So we can imagine them sitting on the banks of a lake, staring at the water, thinking about the meaning of life. They sat in a circle, and as the sun went down, they began to chant. Their voices mixed with the croaking of frogs and the buzzing of mosquitoes. And then suddenly the wind changed direction, trees swayed, and everyone fell silent. A dark cloud appeared over the lake, and soon it began to pour. The Aryans fell down on their knees and joined their hands, and they began to pray to the gods, but none answered them. Indra kept silent. Agni refused to speak. All the gods ignored their prayers. Then one man stood up. He walked toward the lake, dipped his hands in water, and raised his face to the sky. Then he asked the first question. When there was neither being nor non-being, which one existed? Where did the universe come from? Was it born, or did it just always exist? These are difficult questions to answer even today. And back then, there were no scientists, no telescopes. Yet these nomads dared to ask. Because they asked, a new god was born. In the second question, the man looked beyond the universe. He talked about beings and non-beings, wondered about existence and non-existence. In doing so, he realized that there might be powers beyond the world he knew. And this time he got an answer. The storm stopped. The clouds cleared away, and the rain-soaked earth smelled sweet. Then the voice echoed across the valley and said, "Look within yourself. Look inside your own heart, and you will find all the answers." The man turned around, and then he saw a pillar of light rising from the lake. And in that pillar he saw many lights dancing. Then the god spoke again and said, "This is the secret of creation. Look at each one of these flames. Each one is unique, yet they all come from the same source. Understand this truth and you will understand creation." Then the god disappeared, leaving the Aryans in silence. And that night the tribe decided to remember this experience with a hymn. And this is how the hymn goes. When there was neither being nor non-being, when there was no sky, no space, when there was no death, no immortality, no sun and no darkness, no night and no day, who knows where creation came from? Who will reveal its secret? Who will show us the path? O Lord, you are our only hope. Help us cross this darkness and lead us to the light. For you are the one who understands creation. These are strange lines, right? And they make us think about life and existence. They also make us think about science and religion. See, in today's times, we tend to see science and religion as two separate fields. We believe that science explains the universe and religion explains our soul, but it wasn't always like this. If you look at the history of science, you will realize that many great scientists were also religious. Even today, many people manage to believe in both science and religion. But somewhere along the way, we forgot to think. We stopped asking the big questions. If we stop asking questions, we stop thinking. And if we stop thinking, we stop evolving. Let me explain this better. I am sure you have seen a child asking questions. Why does the sky turn blue? Why do leaves change color in autumn? Why do dogs bark? Child asks endless questions. But as we grow up, we become less curious. We stop looking for answers. And yes, many times we don't get answers to our questions. And that's what happened with the Aryans too. They asked about creation, but they never received an explanation. Yet their thirst for knowledge did not end. The Rigveda has more than 1,000 hymns, and most of them have been preserved until today. That's what happens when you encourage curiosity. The Aryans may not have gotten an answer to their question, but their next question might have led them to discover the solar system. Their third question might have made them study fossils, or maybe even cells. So remember, we may not always get an answer, but every question takes us a step further. That's why we should keep asking. Today we know that the universe began with a big bang, and even before that, it was a singularity. Scientists are trying to learn more about this time. They're trying to find out what exactly is a singularity. But what we do know is that the universe began with a bang. And since then, it has been expanding. Every galaxy, every star, every planet, everything is flying away from everything else. Now, we won't go into the science of this expansion today. If you want to know more about it, you can watch my video on dark energy. But think about what it means for us. Everything is running away from us. Our home is not the earth. Our home is the universe. And the universe is going away from us. This realization makes us feel very small, makes us feel insignificant. But if you look around, you will see that this insignificance is beautiful. Look at this photo, for example. You see the man in the photo? He is standing on the shores of the Atlantic Ocean, and he is watching a humpback whale. What's special about this photo? It's not just a man and a whale. The man is dwarfed by nature. There is nothing special about him. It's just one person in 7 billion, yet he is a part of something much larger. This is a wonderful thing to realize. As humans, we tend to think of ourselves as the center of the universe. But in reality, we are just a tiny part of a much larger picture. We may be the only ones who know it, but we are not the center of the universe. And this realization should make us humble. It should teach us compassion. If we are just a tiny part of the universe, then why do we fight so much? Why do we harm each other? Why do we wage wars, and in the process, destroy our own home? You know, whenever I look up at the sky, I feel like I am a part of something much larger. It makes me feel very calm. It gives me clarity of thought. And that's why I want all of you to look up at the night sky and wonder about the vastness of the universe. Wonder about the planets and stars. Go on a virtual tour of the universe. Only then will you realize how small you are. And only then will you begin to understand the beauty of existence. As for the last part of the hymn, I would say that we do live in interesting times. We have the internet, satellites, and telescopes. Yet we still don't know much about the universe. Many scientists are atheists. They say that there is no God because they cannot see one. And many religious people ignore science. They say that science cannot explain life. But here's the truth. Science cannot explain the birth of the universe, but it can explain everything that happens afterwards. Religion cannot explain how galaxies rotate, but it can explain the purpose of human life. Both science and religion have their limitations, and that's why we need both of them. We need science to study the universe, and we need religion to study ourselves. So the next time you look up into the sky, ask questions. Ask the big questions. And if you don't get an answer, ask another one. Keep asking questions. That's how we will evolve. Do you know how the world began? You know how you came into being? How did life begin? Where do we come from? What happens after death? These are the biggest questions of our lives, yet we never find any satisfactory answers. We have theories and beliefs, myths and legends, but absolute knowledge is always out of reach. And this story is the story of how we came to terms with that. This is the first episode of our series on the Upanishads. 4,000 years ago, somewhere in the vast stretches of what we today call India, a group of people sat around a flickering fire, sharing stories and songs. These were the Aryan tribes, nomadic herders, who moved around the Indian subcontinent, speaking their ancient language called Sanskrit. Their tradition had a lot of songs and poems, which they composed and recited while performing a ritual called the yina. But one poem stood apart. It was different. It wasn't a prayer or a hymn to the gods. It was a song of reflection, a song that questioned. It was called the Nasadiya Sukta, the hymn of creation. It talks about the origin of the world and our place in it. The opening line is famous for its profundity and its skepticism. Let us chant it together. Agnamile purahidam tamasa, susiram, ritam, brahem, akarati, prati, mahati. The first word itself is very powerful, agnim. Usually when you start a hymn, you address the god directly. Kane, we invoke you as our priest. But here in the very first word, there is no God. There is only a flicker, just a small flame, a tiny spark of awareness amidst darkness. And now listen to the next part, al purahidam. No priest is reciting anything. Tamasa, sasiram redam. There is no purity, no impurity, no virtue, no sign. Braham, akarati, prati mahati. Nothing is moving forward, nothing is happening. There is no creation. And this sets the tone for the entire poem. For there is no certainty, no divine command, no unquestioned dogma. All that there is an honest confession. Listen to these lines again. Who really knows? Who can possibly know how all this began? The gods themselves came after creation. So who really knows how it began? Even the oldest among the gods cannot truly say. We are mortal. We can only try to understand a little, to reflect a bit, and then we die, and our understanding dies with us. Think about that. While most ancient civilizations proclaimed their gods as all-knowing, the Aryans allowed room for doubt. They admitted that even the gods might not hold the answers. This was more than poetry. It was a philosophical leap. For thousands of years before this, ancient peoples across the world would address their gods and goddesses, beg them for favor, plead for mercy, seek refuge in them, praise their greatness. But the Nasadiya Sukta showed the way to another kind of relationship with the divine. It was the birth of human thought. It was the recognition that mystery remains, even in the heart of divinity. But why? Why did the Aryan sages question the gods? And what did they gain by doing so? To answer that, let's look at some other parts of this poem. In one section, the singer speaks of darkness, calls it a mystery, something that cannot be explored. Then he sings of light. Light appears and takes away the darkness. Now, light could be many things. It could be the sun, it could be fire, it could even be knowledge. Next, he describes the creation of earth and water, air and space. Then he brings in the moon and the stars, the seasons and the winds, the dawn and the twilight. But throughout this creation, the singer keeps wondering, keeps questioning. He does not take anything for granted. He wants to understand each step of creation. And so he asks, how did this happen? Who made this happen? Why did it happen? And he doesn't just ask these questions. He also ponders over the answers. He thinks, he reflects, he wonders. And finally, he concludes that creation is a mystery that humans can only marvel at. It is beyond our understanding. He says, all this we have heard, all this we have seen, all this we have experienced, but we cannot truly comprehend it. And that, he says, is the highest wisdom. They gained something far more precious, far more valuable than blind faith. They gained clarity. They gained a deeper understanding of the world around them and of their place in it. They gained self-awareness, true self-awareness. That is the essence of this hymn. There's a great story about the composer of this hymn. His name was Rishi Dirghatamas. Once upon a time, he went to the sage Gautam Rishi and said, "Sir, I have composed a hymn, but I don't think it is very good. Please listen to it and tell me what you think." And so Rishi Gautam listened to the hymn of creation, and then he said, "My dear student, you have composed a hymn about creation, but have you understood what it means? Have you realized what you are singing about?" The young sage was taken aback. He had indeed sung about creation, but he hadn't really thought about it, so he replied, "No, sir, I haven't realized it. Please teach me." And Gautama, Rishi said, "Very well, let me teach you, but you must go through severe penance first. Only then will I reveal the secrets to you." So the young sage went away and performed a severe penance for many, many years. And when he came back, he asked his guru, "Now, please teach me the meaning of my hymn." And Gautam Rishi replied, "You still have a long way to go, my son. You must wander all over the world, meet many, many people, see all kinds of lifestyles. Only then will you realize the deeper meaning of this hymn." So the sage set out on a long journey. He traveled all over the world, met many sages and saints, and then returned to his guru. He said, "Now, Guruji, I am ready. Please teach me the meaning of my hymn." But Gautam Rishi said, "My child, your journey has not ended. You still have a long way to go. You must renounce everything, give up all your possessions, all your desires, and live an extremely simple life. Only then will you realize the secret of creation." So the sage gave up everything and lived a very simple life. And after many years, when he returned to his guru, Gautama said, "Now, Guruji, I am ready. I am absolutely ready. Please reveal the secrets to me." And Gautam Rishi smiled and said, "My child, you are still dreaming. As long as you dream, you are not awake. The secret of creation lies in this very moment, right here, right now. It is not in the past, not in the future. It is in this present moment. It is in this very breath that you are alive. Everything else is an illusion. Everything else is unreal." And with that, the sage realized the truth. He realized the deepest secret of the universe. If you think about it, this realization is ours to attain, too. The secret of creation is right here, right now. We just need to open our eyes and see. We need to look at the world around us, at ourselves, and wonder. Wonder at the beauty of a flower, the movement of a bird, the rhythm of the seasons, the continuity of life. Just look at anything and everything, and you will find the secret of creation. Because every blade of grass, every grain of sand, every star in the sky, every planet in motion, everything around us is a miracle. It's each and every moment. Life is creating itself anew, and this endless creation is taking place inside of us too. Every breath we take is a creation. Every thought we think is a creation. Every action we perform is a creation. So the secret of creation is not outside of us, it is inside of us. We keep searching for the origin of life, but we forget that life is happening right here, right now. It is happening in every one of us. It is happening in every one of you who is listening to me, and maybe that is the greatest mystery of all. The hymn of creation is just one of the many beautiful hymns in the Rigveda. The Rigveda is just the beginning of the ancient Indian tradition of philosophy and spirituality. So join us next week as we continue this incredible journey. The fire crackled, the drums slowed. The tribe listened in awe and dread. For in those words, the singer shattered the illusion of certainty. This is the host, and you're watching this channel. We've been exploring the ancient origins of our scientific ideas. From the Big Bang to general relativity, we find our modern concepts already present in the indigenous cultures of the Americas. But today, we venture into uncharted territory. Forget the how and the what of science. Today, we tackle the why. Why do we yearn to understand the cosmos? Why does humanity care so much about the nature of reality? To answer this existential question, we turn to one of the oldest stories ever told. In India's northwestern province of Rajasthan, a small group of nomadic tribes still carry on an ancient tradition. Every evening around sunset, they gather around a sacred fire. Small fire, but it represents a bigger, eternal flame. This fire symbolizes the sun, which in their belief renews itself every evening and morning from this very spot. It's their way of bringing order to the cycles of existence, birth, death, and rebirth. The flames dance in the twilight, casting flickering shadows on the faces of the assembled tribespeople. Their leader, or rather their priest, has just finished his round of prayers, while he turns to the rest. It's time for them to speak to the eternal flame. The hymn they will sing is not just any song. It's the Rigveda, the oldest part of one of the world's oldest scriptures. The hymns contained within it are addressed to various Hindu deities. But there's one hymn, the 129th of the first mandala, that stands out. It's called the Hymn of Creation. It speaks of a time before anything existed, a time when darkness shrouded everything and the universe was without form. It tells of the primordial waters from which life emerged, of the sun's journey across the sky, and of the mysteries of death and rebirth. As the singers chant, their voices echo the rhythm of the cosmos itself, and in their song they pose questions that have echoed through millennia. Questions like, who really knows? The tribal members listened intently. They believe that the answers to these questions lie with the gods. But as they sing, another question arises, not one that can be answered by the gods, but one that can only be asked by us. And then the hymn delivers its most haunting line. Perhaps only the one who sits in the highest heaven knows, or perhaps even he does not know. The fire crackled, the drums slowed. The tribe listened in awe and dread. For in those words, the singers shattered the illusion of certainty. They turned a sacred hymn into something greater, a declaration of human curiosity. For thousands of years, scholars had overlooked the significance of this simple sentence. It was just a footnote in a 4,000-year-old text. But the reality is that it captures the essence of scientific inquiry, the humility in the face of the unknown, the courage to question even the divine. The story of the Rigveda is a tale as old as time itself, but its meaning, like the universe it describes, is infinite in its richness and complexity. Much like the creation myth found among the Hopi people, the Rigveda paints a picture of a world brought into existence through song. The rhythmic verses, or riks, are believed to have been composed by ancient seers known as the rishis. These seers, it is said, did not simply write down the words of the hymns, but rather they meditated deeply on the truths they were conveying. The Rigveda is not just a collection of poems. It's a testament to the human spirit's unending quest for understanding. Each hymn is a step deeper into the heart of existence, each verse an attempt to unravel the mysteries of the cosmos. The Hymn of Creation, one of the 108 hymns of the first mandala, holds a special place among the 1028 hymns in the entire Rigveda. Its 19 verses are not just a recounting of the past, but also a guide for living in the present and a prophecy for the future. In the Rigveda, the cosmos is not a static picture, but a dynamic story. It's a story that began with the union of two primal forces, darkness and light. Out of this union came all that we see and know, including the sun, the moon, the stars, the earth, and the sky. The hymn tells of a time before these things existed. There was no day or night, no hot or cold, no movement or stillness. There was no reality as we understand it. The verses paint a vivid picture of a formless void, a state of non-being, a potentiality waiting for the spark of existence. Then suddenly, light emerges. It pierces the darkness and sets the universe in motion. The hymn celebrates this moment of creation, this transition from nothingness to being. It's a celebration of the power of light to bring order to chaos, to shape formlessness into the intricate tapestry of existence. Emergence of light is not merely a physical event, it's a spiritual awakening. It's the moment when consciousness first stirs, when awareness dawns in the midst of the vast expanse. The Rigveda suggests that the emergence of light is not a random occurrence. It's a deliberate act, a conscious choice. Light is not just a property of objects. It's a force that illuminates the path to understanding. It's the guiding principle that leads us from ignorance to knowledge, from darkness to enlightenment. The hymn goes further, though. It doesn't just describe the birth of the universe. delves into the nature of our existence. It explores the cycle of life, death, and rebirth, the ebb and flow of existence. The Rigveda teaches that just as day follows night and the seasons come and go, life is a continuous process of change and renewal. Nothing remains constant. Everything is in flux. This understanding of existence challenges our conventional notions of permanence and identity. It encourages us to see ourselves not as fixed entities, but as evolving beings forever shaped by the rhythms of the cosmos. But amidst this grand cosmic narrative, the Rigveda also grapples with more intimate questions. It probes the depths of human existence, the joys and sorrows, the hopes and fears. The hymns reflect on the human condition, our struggles, our aspirations, and our search for meaning in a vast, indifferent universe. At times, the Rigveda expresses a deep sense of wonder and awe at the immensity of the cosmos. There are moments of pure joy as the seers contemplate the beauty and harmony of the natural world. The hymns capture the exhilaration of discovery, the thrill of understanding a little more about the world and our place in it. Yet the Rigveda is not just about the grandeur of existence. It also acknowledges the fragility of life, the inevitability of death, and the pain that accompanies the human experience. There are verses that express fear and anxiety, grappling with the darkness that seems to envelop life on occasion. These somber reflections remind us that existence is not merely a celebration, but a complex tapestry woven with both light and shadow. Then comes the question that perhaps resonates the most, the one that truly embodies the spirit of scientific inquiry. Who really knows? The singers pause, their voices echoing the vast emptiness that existed before creation. In that pregnant silence, the Rigveda does not claim to have all the answers. It admits the limits of human knowledge. It acknowledges that there are things we may never understand, mysteries that lie beyond our grasp. And yet the hymn does not end there. It does not leave us in a state of helpless ignorance. Instead, it offers a path forward. It encourages us to keep searching, to keep questioning, to keep striving to understand. Perhaps it says only the one who sits in the highest heaven knows, or perhaps even he does not know. This passage is a watershed moment in the hymn. It's a rejection of blind faith, a challenge to unthinking acceptance of what we're told. It's an assertion of the importance of independent thought, of critical thinking. It's a call to look up to the heavens and ask questions, to challenge the status quo, to never stop searching for answers. In a world that often values obedience and conformity, the Rigveda dares to ask, what if we don't know? What if the gods themselves are shrouded in mystery? This simple question has the power to set our minds free. It liberates us from the shackles of dogma and prejudice, allowing us to explore the world with open minds and curious hearts. We now live in an age where technology and scientific advancement have illuminated many corners of the universe. Yet the Rigveda reminds us that there's still so much we don't know. It urges us to approach the mysteries of existence with humility and reverence. It's a call for humanity to come together, to pool our collective knowledge and curiosity, to unravel the secrets of the cosmos. In a world that often seems divided, the Rigveda offers a unifying message. It transcends cultural and societal boundaries, bringing us together in our shared wonder and awe at the universe. It's a reminder that we are all part of the same story, all seeking to understand our place in the grand tapestry of existence. Now, next time you gaze up at the night sky, remember the words of the Rigveda. Embrace the unknown. Question, explore, and marvel at the endless mysteries that surround us. Let the hymn of creation be a beacon, guiding us towards wisdom, humility, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge. Because perhaps that's the true meaning of existence, not to have all the answers, but to keep asking the right questions. This episode was made possible by our amazing patrons. If you'd like to help us make more videos like this, you can get started at our support page. And remember, the more we share our curiosity, the more we'll ignite the spark of wonder in others. So who really wrote the Rigveda? And can it be called a book if no one knows who its authors are? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how the Rigveda was not the creation of a single author. It was not the vision of one prophet, nor the work of one poet. The Rigveda was the voice of an entire community. Each hymn was born from the collective memory of generations of sages, the rishis, men whom the Aryans believed could hear the whispers of the gods themselves. And that is why, Whenever the Rigveda was sung, you rarely hear the word I. Instead, the hymns declare, we call, we praise, we offer. The voice was never individual. It was a chorus, a great harmony, a sound that belonged not to one man, but to an entire people. And this concept is brilliantly captured in the very first verse of the very first hymn of the very first mandala of the Rigveda. Listen to these words, how they echo across the ages and invite all of us into the timeless conversation between humanity and divinity. We that are seeking truth, may we find what we seek. May we approach together, gods and men united in their longing for union with the divine. That is the eternal quest of the human soul, isn't it? The longing for union with the divine. In a world where everything from grocery shopping to entertainment is tailored to your individual preferences, it's easy to forget that life isn't always about me. Sometimes it's more about us, our relationships, our communities, and the shared experiences that bind us together. So let's talk about what we can learn from a community, how it fosters a sense of belonging, shared identity, and collective action. Being part of a community offers a profound sense of belonging. It provides a space where individuals can connect with like-minded people, sharing common interests, values, or goals. This sense of camaraderie can be incredibly comforting and reassuring, creating a support system that uplifts and encourages personal growth while fostering a deep feeling of acceptance and inclusion. We can draw strength from the shared stories, traditions, and rituals that have been passed down through generations, which help to build a sense of continuity and connection to something greater than ourselves. But the benefits of community extend far beyond just feeling connected. It also gives us a strong sense of shared identity. Being part of a community allows us to explore and express our identities in a supportive environment. We internalize the beliefs, values, and traditions of our community, which shape our sense of self and give us a framework for understanding the world around us. This process of identity exploration and expression can lead to a greater sense of self-awareness and personal fulfillment. Moreover, a shared identity can also foster a sense of pride and loyalty, creating a bond that unites people and inspires them to work together towards common goals. Speaking of goals, working towards a common objective is made easier when you have a community. It creates a sense of shared purpose. When individuals come together and unite for a cause, it becomes easier to achieve those objectives. Communities provide the necessary resources, expertise, and manpower to tackle complex problems and bring about positive change. By harnessing the collective power of a community, individuals can amplify their impact and create meaningful change that benefits not only themselves, but also the wider community. There's a beautiful quote by the philosopher Aristotle that goes, "Man is by nature a social animal." This means that humans are naturally inclined to live in communities and form social bonds with others. It's in our nature to belong to something bigger than ourselves, to feel connected to a group of people who share our beliefs and values, and to work together towards common goals. It's because of this inherent need for connection and belonging that communities play such an important role in our lives. They provide us with the support, acceptance, and sense of purpose that we crave. They allow us to explore our identities, express ourselves freely, and make a positive impact on the world around us. Now, coming back to the Rigveda, you see each hymn in the Rigveda is like a little piece of the community's soul. They were created through a collaborative process involving many different people over many different years. These hymns were not just written down, they were composed, recited, and performed in various ceremonies and rituals. They were passed down orally from one generation to the next, and each new telling added another layer of meaning and understanding. The beauty of this process is that it allowed the hymns to evolve and adapt over time, incorporating new experiences, insights, and perspectives. As a result, the Rigveda became a rich tapestry of diverse voices, reflecting the wisdom and insights of a community spread across vast geographical regions and time periods. Another great thing about the community aspect of the Rigveda is that it emphasizes the importance of collaboration and shared effort. Creating these hymns was not a solo endeavor, but a team effort involving poets, seers, and singers working together to craft and perform these sacred texts. This spirit of collaboration is still alive and well today in many communities, where people come together to create art, music, and literature that reflects the shared experiences and values of their community. Now let's talk about the incredible impact the Rigveda has had on Indian society and culture. Its hymns have inspired countless works of art, literature, and music. And its teachings have influenced the spiritual and moral values of Indian people for centuries. But the influence of the Rigveda goes far beyond India's borders. Its teachings on ethics, spirituality, and the pursuit of knowledge have resonated with people all over the world. For instance, the concept of dharma, which refers to the righteous path or duty, is a central theme in the Rigveda. This idea has had a profound impact on Indian society, shaping ethical norms and inspiring people to live according to high moral standards. Similarly, the Rigveda's emphasis on the pursuit of knowledge and the importance of education has been a driving force behind India's long tradition of scholarship and intellectual inquiry. But perhaps the most significant contribution of the Rigveda is its promotion of unity and harmony. Despite its ancient origins, the Rigveda's message of peace and its call for people to live in harmony with one another continue to be relevant today. In a world that is often divided by conflict and strife, the Rigveda reminds us of the importance of embracing diversity, respecting different cultures, and working together to create a better future for all. So to answer the question, who really wrote the Rigveda? There isn't a single author. Instead, it was a community of sages who dedicated their lives to seeking truth and understanding the nature of reality. Their hymns were not just religious texts, but a reflection of their shared experiences, values, and aspirations. And as we come to the end of this video, I want to leave you with a thought. The Rigveda teaches us that the pursuit of knowledge and the search for truth is a lifelong journey. Just like the sages of old, we too must be willing to ask questions, to challenge our own beliefs, and to embrace new ideas with an open mind. Only then can we hope to understand the true nature of reality and our place within it. That's all for now. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to show your support so you never miss out on any of my videos. Have you ever wondered how 4,000 years ago, a scattered set of nomads turned into the nation we call India?
How did they go from scattered to settled?
How did these ancient people invent the world's oldest major religion and lay the foundation for yoga or Ayurveda and other practices that have survived to this day? And above all, why do all these ancient texts still feel so relevant in our modern world? Welcome to the series where we explore ancient texts that shaped civilizations. I'm your host.
And today we start with a journey back to the dawn of human history. We travel to a time when the Indian subcontinent was home to many tribes speaking different languages, following different beliefs, living a nomadic life, always on the move. But then something extraordinary happened. Around 2300 BCE, in a world without empires or nations, there emerged the Vedic people. They were nomads too, but they carried with them a treasure trove of knowledge, a collection of hymns, prayers, and rituals known as the Vedas. This wasn't just any ordinary collection of songs. It was the blueprint for a civilization. It was the foundation for a culture. Today we will explore the Rigveda, the most ancient part of the Vedas, and understand how its words ignited the spiritual awakening of humanity. Let us begin with the setting. Imagine the ritual. At the center burns the sacred fire. Around it, the tribe forms a circle. Men, women, children, the elders. The sage begins the first line. The others repeat, their voices swelling like waves. Drums pound, flutes wail. Hands clap in rhythm. Children echo every word, their eyes glowing in the firelight. In that moment, the Rigveda was not just religion. It was a language of unity. No one sat silent. Everyone's breath, everyone's voice became part of the offering. The hymn itself became the invisible thread that bound them together. And thus the Rigveda played a pivotal role in shaping early Indian culture. Its hymns were not confined to priests and scholars. Every member of the community participated, reaffirming their shared identity. It was a society-building exercise like no other. Now, let's talk about content. What's inside this ancient scripture that has captured the imaginations of millions over the centuries? Let us take a closer look at the hymns. As we read them, we will try to see how they helped those ancient people transition from scattered nomads to a nation. Picture a group of ancient Indians gazing up at the night sky, not just as a random scattering of lights, but as a divine tapestry woven by the gods themselves. For them, the cosmos was not distant and cold. It was alive, vibrant, and full of stories. These celestial bodies became their storytellers. The sun became Mitra, a friend who greeted them each morning. The dawn became Ushas, a beautiful goddess bathing in the eastern waters. Even the darkness was personified as a kind and protective mother, watching over them with her gentle presence. Through these hymns, they celebrated the rhythm of nature, marking time by the cycles of day and night, birth and death, planting and harvest. Their hymns tell stories of heroes, both legendary and real, and their deeds of valor, courage, and wisdom. The Rigveda is filled with tales of daring adventures, battles against evil forces, and the triumph of good over darkness. Some hymns are dedicated to mythical heroes like the legendary King Sagara, whose 60,000 sons walked into the sea to test their devotion to the gods and never returned. Others praise the exploits of gods like Indra, the warrior god who led the celestial army to victory, or Agni, the fire god who carried offerings to the gods and brought their blessings back to earth. Now let us explore another fascinating aspect of the Rigveda, its philosophy. What kind of a worldview did it offer to those ancient seekers? Well, it's a rich and complex one, full of symbolism and layers of meaning. Central to this philosophy is the concept of Brahman. Now don't let the term confuse you. It's not some far-off complicated idea. In simple terms, Brahman is the ultimate reality, the source of all existence, the ground of being. Think of it like the ocean, vast, deep, and eternal. Then there are the gods, not as separate deities, but as different aspects or manifestations of this one reality. It's like the ocean expressing itself in waves, each wave unique, yet all part of the same ocean. The Rigveda invites us to look beyond the surface of things to recognize this underlying unity. It encourages us to see the divine spark in everything and to treat all beings with reverence. This worldview provided a strong ethical framework, a set of values that guided their daily lives. The hymns often speak of truth, honesty, compassion, and the importance of living in harmony with nature and society. So how did the Rigveda shape the way these ancient people lived and interacted with the world? Well, it did so in many ways. For instance, it transformed their perception of the natural world. The Rigveda wasn't just a collection of hymns. It was a key to understanding the mysteries of the cosmos. The hymns showed the ancient people that they were part of something much larger than themselves, connected to the rhythm of the universe. This realization fostered a deep sense of wonder and respect for the natural world. It's like going from seeing individual stars to realizing you're standing under a vast, infinite sky. That kind of perspective shift can be life-changing. Furthermore, the hymns emphasize the importance of living a virtuous life. They weren't just meant to be recited during rituals. They were meant to guide everyday conduct. The Rigveda inspired acts of charity, honesty in business dealings, and kindness towards all living beings. It promoted a way of life that valued truth, compassion, and harmony with others. The Vedic people didn't just worship the gods. They strived to embody their qualities. Moreover, the Rigveda was a catalyst for social unity. Imagine a time when people spoke different languages and followed different customs. The Rigveda brought them together through a common set of beliefs and practices. The hymns were a unifying force that transcended linguistic and cultural boundaries. During those ancient rituals, when the whole community gathered to chant the hymns, it was a powerful reminder of what they shared, what connected them, their identity, their heritage. It was in these moments of collective worship that the seeds of a shared identity were sown, eventually leading to the formation of a nation. The Rigveda also laid the groundwork for many important ancient Indian traditions, like yoga and Ayurveda. While these practices aren't directly explained in the Rigveda, its hymns contain the seeds of these traditions. It's the emphasis on self-discipline, on understanding the subtle energies within the body, on the interconnectedness of all life. All of this is present in the Rigvedic hymns. It's like the trunk of a tree, from which branches of yoga, Ayurveda, and other practices would later grow. In conclusion, the Rigveda was much more than an ancient text. It was a transformative force that shaped the course of Indian history. It played a crucial role in the creation of a shared cultural identity, fostering unity among diverse groups of people. It offered a profound understanding of the natural world, inspiring awe and respect for the rhythms of the cosmos. The Rigveda's impact went beyond the realm of religion. It influenced ethics, social norms, and even the development of ancient Indian traditions like yoga. Its hymns continue to resonate because they touch upon universal human experiences and aspirations, reminding us of the timeless quest for truth, love, and enlightenment. As we bring this episode to a close, we invite you to join the conversation. What has been your experience reading or chanting the Rigvedic hymns? What insights have you gained from them? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Also, if there is a particular aspect of ancient Indian history or culture that you'd like us to explore, do let us know. Your comments guide us in creating future episodes. And before we part ways, remember to subscribe for more captivating journeys through ancient texts. Thank you for joining us today. This is the Rigveda. This is the oldest scripture of Hinduism, and this is sacred. But how we can read it? We can see that it's just words. It's not even in English. It's in Sanskrit. So why do Hindus consider this book sacred? Let me tell you. Look at these verses. They are about 10,000 years old. And who wrote them? The ancient Aryan sages. Now we know their names. Rishi means sage, and these sages were not ordinary men. They were poets, philosophers, priests, leaders. And they didn't live in an age when there were paper and ink and books. No. Back then, there was neither paper, nor ink, nor writing. Only the human mind, trained, sharpened, devoted, became the library. These sages memorized everything and transmitted it through generations. That's why it is also called Shruti, meaning what is heard. All the Hindu scriptures are called Shruti, because they were heard by the sages and then passed on orally. There's something else you must know. When a young boy among the Aryans, he grew up listening to these hymns. He would sit at the feet of his elders and absorb their recitations. He would start learning at the age of 7. Day after day, year after year, he repeated every line, every word, until the hymns flowed from his lips without error. And then, as a man, he passed them to his sons, and they to theirs. One word wrong, one syllable missed, one rhythm broken, and the ritual lost its power. So each community guarded every sound like treasure. There were 4 such communities. Each had its own Veda, and over centuries these 4 Vedas grew. Their hymns, their prayers, their rituals, all passed on through this living chain of memory. The Rigveda survived for centuries before a single word was ever written down. But why is it so important? Why should we care for these ancient words? I'll tell you, because they shaped India. The Rigveda played a huge role in uniting our ancestors. Think about it. For thousands of years, the sages kept this knowledge alive through their memories. Can you imagine the discipline it took? It takes a lot of effort to remember things. It takes even more to pass those things accurately from one generation to another. The Rigveda achieved that. This book contains 1,028 hymns, 1,028 verses, and these verses speak about nature, about life, about death and rebirth. They talk about good times and bad. They praise the gods and sometimes question them. They contain many philosophical ideas that have stood the test of time. Now think about this. For a text to survive for so long, it must have touched people's lives. It must have answered questions that troubled human minds. It must have provided solace when people were in pain. That's why the Rigveda became sacred. People found answers to their questions in it. They found strength in it. They saw a purpose in life and an end to suffering. In short, it helped them live better. Now let's go back to the beginning, to the first verse of the Rigveda. It goes like this. We that have come to thee with oblations, hymn the greatness of the Asvins. May they bring forth our praises. Now I know this looks like gibberish, but think about what it must have meant to those ancient people. The Aswins, they were divine twin gods of healing. So the worshippers, they were like superheroes who could save them from illness and injury. So when these verses were recited, everyone listened. The idea was that if you praise the Ashvins properly, if you recite the right words correctly, they will hear you, and they will send you health. So in essence, it's a prayer for help. It's an appeal to the gods to show mercy. And guess what? You find such verses throughout the Rigveda. For instance, here's another one. Oh, the blessed, heavenly, radiant Maruts, the gods who bring us wealth, who fill the spacious earth. Here we call upon your might. Now, the Maruts, they were a group of storm gods, powerful and wild. They controlled the weather, and the people respected them. They knew that storms could destroy crops, homes, and lives. But they also brought rain, which meant new life and growth. So these verses are kind of like a balancing act. On the one hand, they acknowledge the destructive power of the storms. On the other, they celebrate the life-giving force. This is important because life isn't always easy. Sometimes it brings joy, sometimes sorrow. Sometimes it pours down blessings. Sometimes it throws in challenges. And what do you do in such situations? You pray. You look up to a higher power and seek help. And that's exactly what the Rigveda taught the people. It gave them the words, the rituals, the beliefs to connect with the divine. Here's another example of the celestial singers. Singing in the vast expanse, we follow your courses. Oh, the lights and light our darkness. Who are these celestial singers? Some verses later, we find the answer. The sun is the first singer. The moon is the second singer. The dawn is the third singer. And the stars are the fourth singer. So there you have it. The Rigveda teaches that the universe itself is filled with music. The sun, the moon, the stars, the very fabric of existence is in tune. And humans, they are part of this grand symphony. So when we face problems or doubts or fears, the Rigveda encourages us to look up to the heavens for inspiration. It's like having a personal connection with the cosmos. It's a reminder that we are not alone in this journey called life. And yet, some people just dismiss it as an ancient book with outdated ideas. I'll tell you what. Even today, during important ceremonies like weddings or religious gatherings, the hymns of the Rigveda are recited. And why? Because they create a special atmosphere. They connect people to their ancient traditions. They build a sense of unity and belonging. Plus, they remind us to be grateful for the gift of life. You know, when the Rigveda reached India, it wasn't just a collection of words. It was a source of strength. And over the years, people added their own stories, their own experiences, their own devotion to make it even more meaningful. And this process of enrichment continued with other Vedic texts. You see, as society evolved, so did its needs. And that's when the other Vedas came into being. There's the Rigveda, and its name means ritualistic knowledge. It's got instructions on how to perform rituals and ceremonies. Then comes the Soma Veda. The name means the collection of chants. It's got melodies and tunes used during rituals. And lastly, the Atharva Veda. Its name means wisdom of Atharvan. It talks about magic spells and healing herbs. But here's the catch. None of these Vedas were ever complete. They all borrowed from each other, where ideas blended and expanded. And that's how the Vedic period lasted for over 1,000 years. Now, do you realize why I call the Rigveda sacred? It's because it spread across India, bringing people together. It traveled from family to family, from teacher to student, like a precious flame kept burning through countless generations. If not for the rishis, if not for their dedication, we wouldn't have this treasure today. But here lies the greatest wonder. The Rigveda lived only in memory. No paper, no ink, no writing, just the human mind, trained, sharpened, devoted, became the library. And don't forget it. Don't allow anyone to belittle it. Remember, the Rigveda once changed the course of history. It has the power to uplift your mind and soul. And if you understand it well, it can guide you on your path. So have you ever read the Rigveda? Do you know its importance in Hinduism? If not, I encourage you to explore it. Learn about its hymns and teachings. And if you have, share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights might inspire others. Also, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more enlightening content. Together, let's keep the ancient wisdom alive. Namaskar.